I'm so tired. I'm just like,
girl, I get it.
Oh,
Well, I know you've said before we talk about The Sims too much, but Cody just let me know before actually dropping me off to record that EA is bringing out Sims 1 and 2 with all the DLCs for $30. I figured you might already know.
I'm so excited. I haven't gotten it yet. I'm probably going to pick it up later tonight.
The Sims 2 campaign.
Seriously.
So much fun. Oh my God.
I'm so excited. I was hoping that they would say that because they've been like hinting at a lot of stuff. And I'm like, what are they going to do? So yeah. And it's nice that it includes everything. And
hey, EA, send Dina a copy of your Sims, please.
Please, EA.
Please.
Do it.
She'll be your spokesperson.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Dina. Welcome to the Grim Curriculum.
We have a very special episode for you all today. And thank goodness, because I've had a hell of a week and I need something to uplift my spirits.
This is gonna.
I'm so happy.
It really is. It's Grim Encounters time.
Heck yeah. This is our 7th time getting to tell your amazing stories.
Which we actually had to confirm before we started recording because I was like, has it been 7?
I was like, 7? That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But it's been 7. So thank you for 7 episodes of you guys telling your stories through us on the podcast.
As always, if you want to share something with us, email us at thegrimcurriculum@gmail.com because we love hearing from you guys so much.
Yeah, and we've got some fun ones today for sure.
We've said so many times, we love these episodes.
Yes, it always feels like we're sitting around the campfire and we're telling each other stories. And there's nothing I love more in the world.
And boy, do we have some today that are going to straight up heeb your jeebs.
Ooh. Okay, so our first story today is from Marianne. Take it away, Dina.
I will say before I even start with this one, I transcribed this from a voice note. So I did my best to convey it as well as she did.
Wonderful.
But I've heard this story in the past and I'm excited to know what you think.
Okay, you know what? I'm not even going to read a log. I'm just going to sit and listen.
Just listen to my voice.
I'm here for the ride.
This was back in 2004. I'd only been in the house for a few months. I went to lay down in bed and turned on the TV, which was on my dresser. The remote was on my bed by my right hand. This is going to be important.
Okay.
Ben, our cat, came in and wanted to sleep on the bed with me. I put on a movie and eventually I fell asleep. At around 4 a.m., Ben woke me up. He was sitting up, staring at the dresser and loudly growling.
Oh, you know what? We've said it before. I'll say it again. Cats and dogs, they'll sense it before you do.
Oh, yeah. I looked in that direction to see what had made him so agitated. It was pretty dark, but I could still somewhat see. The corner where the dresser was engulfed in blackness. That struck me as odd, but I attributed it to just being overtired. I sat up. Ben kept looking where the TV was supposed to be and started meowing. He then jumped up and ran towards the door, so I got up to let him out. When I moved my hand towards the doorknob, it felt like someone dropped a bag of sand on me. I felt the weight on my shoulders, arm, and hand. I couldn't grab the doorknob. I didn't think something scary or paranormal was happening. I actually thought I might be having some sort of medical episode. By this point, Ben was howling in distress and trying to get out. I tried to open the door with my other hand, but the same thing happened. Then I got really scared. I looked towards the dresser and it looked like the blackness around the TV was starting to move towards the wall and up the ceiling.
Ooh, don't like that.
It then started to move towards me.
Nope.
I became legitimately worried that I was having a stroke. I finally felt like I could grab the doorknob, so I yanked it and it flew open. Ben ran out. I opened the front door to let him outside. I came back to the bedroom and turned on all the lights and everything seemed fine. Soon after that, I let Ben back in. He refused to come into the bedroom.
Oh, you know that's a big red flag.
Yes. I decided that when I woke up later that day, I would look up the symptoms of a stroke and see if something was really wrong with me.
Fair enough.
I turned off the lights and got ready to lay down again. I went to grab the remote and turn on the TV. Immediately, I felt the same heaviness on my hand. It was as if it slammed down on my hand and prevented me from picking it up. I reached over for the light by my bed, and the same thing happened to my other hand.
No.
I sat up and eventually managed to get the lights on and begin watching TV. In the morning, when I told the story to my friend, who is a born-again Christian, she told me that if it happened again, I should say out loud, "Go back to where you belong, you are dead, go to the light," and to keep saying it. She went as far as to tell me to say, "Get thee behind me, Satan," if it didn't work, which made me laugh because I don't believe any of those things.
Hey, you know what? I'll try anything in a situation.
Right? I'll say what you want me to say.
Totally.
When I told my mother, she asked me if I was sure I hadn't had a stroke. A few nights later, I told my sister. She told me about some ghost stories she had heard regarding buildings in our town. Apparently, things had gotten so bad that they actually had some ghost hunters come out to help to deal with the situation, which is something I'm going to look into a little bit
No
more because I want to know
kidding.
more about that. She said I should say exactly what my friend said and instructed me not to be scared, but to talk to whatever it is. A few nights later, Ben didn't want to come into the room again. It led me to believe that he actually did see something because he had never been afraid of that room. When I went to sleep, the same thing happened again. The TV was on a timer and it turned off. As it did, I woke up, so I reached for the remote and went to turn it back on. Again, I felt the weight slam onto my hand. I thought, wow, somebody really doesn't want me to watch TV.
That's what I'm thinking. Whatever this is, it's a TV hater for
It's
sure.
bossy. Like the time before, I couldn't turn the light on, and that was it for me. I was now absolutely terrified. I started screaming, "Get thee behind me, Satan. Go to the light. You're dead. You don't belong here," over and over. I got chills down my spine, and I thought to myself that if anyone heard me saying this, that I'd get locked up in an asylum.
Fair enough.
I stopped, turned on the TV and the light. I kept it on and fell back asleep. The next night, I was so scared that I went to bed with the lights on. This went on for about a week. Finally, I felt brave enough to go to sleep with the light off. About a month later, a sound woke me up. I was about to get out of bed when I felt that weight again.
Oh no.
This time it was on my leg and prevented me from getting out of bed. All of a sudden, the closet doors started opening. 20 pennies slowly fell down from the closet. I had no idea where they came from. Logically, I thought maybe I had a hole in one of my pockets and it had fallen out of that, but I just couldn't find any.
Oh no, that is so weird.
Now, just a few years ago, so 15 years after all of this, I was
Okay.
on my bed. A picture my sister had painted looked like it literally jumped off of the shelf. It didn't knock anything over. It looked like it went up and then jumped. I thought it could be from a small earthquake, but we don't get those here. My neighbors also didn't report anything. Nothing else had moved, just the picture. Could all of this have been a stroke, an earthquake, or something else?
Whoa.
I heard the story for the first time it was probably around midnight, and I was sitting in the living room of this house.
No way. I'd be like, why are you telling me this here right now?
I was like, first of all, I want this for the podcast. Second of all, I want to go home.
Honestly, I'm getting a little animated over
Right?
here.
You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Crazy story.
No kidding. Holy cow. I do appreciate that your first thought was, okay, perhaps this is a medical emergency, which is a very good first thought to have.
Yes.
Because if you are having a medical emergency, please recognize it for what it is and seek medical attention immediately.
Don't blame the ghosts.
Absolutely. However, I don't know if this is a medical emergency. It seems of the spiritual and paranormal to me.
Yes. And I will tell you all, this person is very much a skeptic.
Okay.
And a very logical woman. So
I would say that's at the very
Right?
least very unexplainable.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting us tell your story on the podcast. That was fantastic.
This next story actually also involves a cat,
Okay.
and it is from Riley.
Many years back, my aunt and uncle lived in our basement. They absolutely loved cats, and while they were living with us, they owned a cat named Ivy. Ivy was a beautiful calico cat with probably the cutest coloring I'd seen, aside from my own, of course. Unfortunately, while they were living with us, Ivy passed away. The whole family held a funeral for her, and there's still a photo of her up in my house. This was probably all around 6 to 8 years ago. Now, back only a year or two ago is when the real story begins. As you can probably tell, I live in a very cat focused household. I was raised around cats that were older than me and haven't gone even a year without one being in the vicinity. As such, I was very used to my cat at the time coming into my room and sleeping in the bed with me. For context, at this point, I was sleeping in the basement. It's fairly large, and the only door is located at the top of the stairs leading to the main floor. This is important because my room itself did not have a door. And of course, living in the basement comes with many a loud or quiet creaking or groaning sound. The pipes are around 50 years old, so I grew accustomed to random noises, either due to the pipes, the walls, or the orange cat we owned at the time and still own. His name is Ozzy and he is my baby. Aw, Ozzy. One night, I was right at the edge of sleep. You know, right when your mind is finally shutting down and you can feel yourself drifting into the deep comfort of rest. As such, I was not very aware of the world around me, but still awake enough to feel the very recognizable sensation of my cat, or what I assumed to be my cat, jumping onto my bed beside me. In my sleep driven haze, I turned over with my eyes still shut and slammed my arm down to pet my baby boy, who had clearly come for snuggles. However, when my arm bounced into nothing but my blanket, I opened my eyes in confusion. Sitting on the bed, in all its glory, was absolutely nothing. Despite having less than a moment prior felt the very obvious pounce of a cat and the tugging of sheeps wrapped around me as the weight settled, I sat up, looking around in confusion. My cat was nowhere to be seen. Deciding to do some investigation of my own, I get up and wander out of my room and down the hallway and to the top of the stairs to make sure that the door is open. This would make it possible that in my almost sleep, I skipped time somehow and thought that he had jumped on my bed in a moment when really it had been minutes before. Of course, in hindsight, this makes very little sense, but according to my still sleepy brain, it was the only solution. However, when I reached the top of the stairs, I found to my horror that the door was completely shut. And while my cat is very smart and has learned in more recent times to nudge open the door when it is slightly open and squeeze in, this was not the case. I stood in confusion for a few moments before returning to bed to go to sleep. And when I woke in the morning, I finally processed that not only was my cat not in the basement that evening, he had no possible way of even getting down there. I racked my brain for possible options. Maybe I had dreamed it, or perhaps someone had let him in and then come back to let him out. After some hard thinking, I finally remembered my aunt and uncle's old cat and then remembered she had in fact passed away in the bathroom right next to my bedroom. I was still skeptical, but even after a few years, I still know with 100% certainty that my cat could not have been in the basement and that I had not hallucinated or dreamed the encounter. I have not had any incident since, but I always keep an eye out for the little calico ghost that came to say hi in the night.
I like
Aww,
that story.
that's very wholesome in the end. I quite like the idea of a little ghost cat.
Right?
Thank you so much for sending that in, Riley. So, story number 3 is from Amanda.
This happened a long time ago when I was about 3 years old. My parents were young and recently moved into a new town after getting married, bought a trailer in from British Columbia, Canada, in a small mining town. Now, this town is small, remote, and surrounded by forests. So much so that all the streets in town were named after types of trees rather than numbers. The trailer park that my parents chose for their new family to live in was quite small, with maybe 10 neighbors. It was also located a good 15 minutes from the main town so as to hide the poorer residents of town. As there was a strike going on at the mine where my father worked, this is what they could afford for the time. Now, being away from the main town puts us more into the forest than most would feel comfortable. Our particular home was located as far away from the main road into the park as you could get. We were even more isolated and into the wilds than the rest of the park. I remember a small field behind our house and then nothing but dark woods in that particular direction. Left of that was a small river that my mother used to take us to so we could pick saskatoons and throw rocks into the water. Sounds wholesome. I like
Yeah,
it.
honestly.
I was born while my parents lived in this trailer and was there until the age of 5. I only mention my age as to point out that everything about this place felt safe and wondrous. As long as my sisters and I played within eyesight of the trailer, my parents let us wander around without being present with us. Keep in mind that this was the 90s, so parents were a little less strict and even more so in small towns. I've been taught from a young age that if you hear something weird, it's probably an animal and you run home. I need you all to understand that this town takes its wildlife safety very seriously. Every year in school from kindergarten to grade 12, we were taught wildlife safety in some form of another. Everything from how to survive a bear attack to this is what you do if you're ever in an avalanche. To go even further, my father and mother were both Cub Scout leaders, so they would take us scouts to where they could teach us survival training and camping safety as well as animal safety. All of this to say I was very aware of my surroundings, growing up even from such a young age. I'm very grateful for having this training, as a sunny fall afternoon could have turned out very differently for me and my sister when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
The river I mentioned before was a favorite spot for me and my sisters, not just because we could eat Saskatoons to our heart's content, but because it was a great place to make mud pies. This particular afternoon, I was making what I was sure would be my biggest and most impressive mud pie to date in my life, while my older sister of 5 years was using a stick as a sword and was brandishing it at the surrounding water and bushes. As I was smacking my mud to the ground, I heard what sounded to me like a small growl or hiss that turned into a growl. It wasn't super loud, and it was quite hard to hear over the sounds my sister and I had been making. I asked her, "Did you hear that?" To which she promptly and snarkily replied no and went back to her slaying of the water. I decided if my big sister wasn't afraid and didn't hear anything, it was probably nothing, and returned to fortifying my pie. Within a minute, I heard the sound again, but a little louder, and it sounded like it was coming from behind my sister. I heard the sound more clearly this time and looked up to where I thought the sound had come from and stared intently into the forest, seeing nothing. My sister noticed me staring and said, "What? What are you looking at?" I said I didn't see anything, but I thought I heard the sound again. She told me to stop trying to scare her and that it was mean to tell lies, to which I loudly said, "I want to go home. I think something is watching us and I am scared." Again, my sister said, "No, it's fine," and went back to playing.
Oh, girl, set your boundaries and you stick by them.
I, on the other hand, did not go back to playing. I was too scared. I remember rapidly looking into the depths of the forest and being too scared to move or do anything. Did I trust my sister and assume I was imagining things? Or did I go to the house and get mom? If I left to get mom, would my sister be safe? What if it was a bear? Obviously, my 3-year-old brain, despite all the training I had learned, was too overwhelmed to think rationally in this situation.
I think we'll let you get away with that at 3 years old.
Exactly. I have no idea how long I stood there or what happened around me during that time. The next thing I remember was someone grabbing my hand and dragging me behind them while running. To my surprise, it was my sister, the same sister who wouldn't listen to me a moment ago, and now she was running full tilt back to our home. I asked her while trying my best to keep up with her what had happened. She said she didn't hear a growl like I had. She heard a full roar from very close by and had the distinct feeling that she needed to take me away from the river and somewhere safe now.
Oh, good instinct, good instinct.
Once inside, she was happy to explain more. She was pretty sure there was a cougar stalking us.
I had a feeling when you first said, oh, it was like a hiss and a growl. I was like, oh, that's a feline.
They had just discussed cougars in school and had learned that as kids, in a fight with a cougar, they stood no chance. The best thing a kid could do is run for safety, but keep looking over your shoulder while running. Cougars' muscle memory for pouncing and engaging in a chase requires breaking eye contact, but it can make you classified as prey. So by looking back, you are more likely as a child to get away. It really just depends on the cat and how desperate for food they are, or if they have cubs nearby. When my sister explained this to me, we ran to the living room and crawled up to the back of the couch so that we could look out the window that had a clear view of the river. No sooner had we pressed our noses to the glass did we see a large tan-colored cat walking where we had been standing moments before.
Oh boy.
I was super grateful that my sister paid attention in school that day and trusted her gut to get us out of there. I've seen a lot of life during my 20 years in British Columbia and had some other close calls with wildlife. I've always been happy that I was given the training needed to get out of some sticky situations thanks to my schooling. So I guess if there is a moral to this story, it's to pay attention in school and make sure you research wildlife and wilderness safety for any area that you're traveling to that you may be unfamiliar with. It might just save your life.
Very, very wise advice.
Yes.
Holy cow.
That's scary.
Yeah, you were just about cougar dinner, I think, because a cougar or a mountain lion would not think twice about snatching a toddler. My goodness, you lucky ducks. Okay, do we have time for just one more?
Let's do it.
Okay, so
we're going to be breaking our cat theme.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, and you know what? This next story, it has a dog in it.
Perfect. I love it.
So we're going the other way. So this is actually a story from my bestie page that I asked her to send in because she had quite the incident back in December. So
this is a recent one.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you it now. My name is Paige. I'm a big fan of TGC and was asked by Charlotte the Great, oh, stop it, to share something that happened to me back in December. So I recently got my driver's license and have been driving down to the river once a day with my dog, Jasper. The day before, I had just left a job and needed some time to really connect to nature, so I decided to take Jasper in the morning, now having a free schedule and all of that. I pull up to the three-way intersection and I'm waiting to turn to head right when I notice a man stumbling around on the side of the road. I was initially going through the usual thoughts of, oh God, I hope he doesn't come over here and bother me. I don't have the energy for this right now.
Relatable.
Until I saw him slip and fall, hitting the back of his head super hard. That's when I knew that he might need help and that the hospital wasn't too far away. When he got back up, even wobblier than before, he approached the truck in front of me, and that truck drove off before the man could do anything. The man then approaches my truck, causing Jasper to lose his mind, growling at this man while I'm still trying to assess the situation. My heart stopped as I noticed that the man had blood pouring from his mouth down onto his shirt. I go to roll down my window, but it's frozen shut, so the man opens my passenger door. I asked him if he needed to go to the hospital, but before answering my question, he hops into the truck, telling me to take him to a friend's house.
Oh, God.
She's like, I am about to take myself out of park when a huge black vehicle pulls up as close to my front bumper as it possibly could. Next thing I know, out jumps this cop screaming with his silver gun drawn, and time seemed to freeze as I can recall the gun's RCMP engraving on the side of it in great detail. She was like, basically, it was like a Matrix moment where like your vision was telescopic, and she's like, all I could see was the RCMP crest on this Mountie's gun.
Wow.
She's like, even though I was probably standing like quite far away, she says, the man ends up cursing and exiting out of my truck, and then he gets on the ground right by my back tire where his hands are in the air and the cop can see them. As I am frozen in shock, the cop is beckoning me to leave the situation, but I have no way to get out without scraping either this undercover cop truck or possibly squishing this man now laying on his belly by my back tire.
Oh my God.
So I back up a smidge, making sure to avoid the guy on the ground, but the cop is just yelling at me to just go. So I gotta put my new license to the test. I made the sharpest turn possible and pulled out, just barely getting by the cop car. I could feel the cop cringing, watching how close he parked to me and regretting shooing me away, but I managed to get out without a scratch while being high on adrenaline. As I'm about to finally take this right turn to get to the river, I see many more cop cars and sirens pulling up, so I wait for them to pass by, and I finally saw where the man was before he hopped into the front seat of my truck. There was a truck with his whole front smashed in and damaged. She sent us a picture, so I'm going to show you now, if I remember to pull it up properly. Where is it? Okay, so there's an undercover cop car.
Oh my God.
That's his smash truck. And that's the snowplow grader he hit with it.
Oh my goodness.
So basically, he had just been in this accident and then he stumbled back towards Paige.
Can you show that to the camera for
Yes,
Patreon?
I absolutely can. It's maybe a little tough. I might have, but
we'll post the picture.
Yeah. So she goes on to finish. So it turns out this man and his friends were infamously carjacking their way from the big city, crashing their vehicles, repeating this process until this guy ended up getting separated from his crew and crashing out into a snowplow in town. He rolled out of the wreck, and that's where I saw him. I believe his friends are still out there, but the police have been trying to catch these guys for a while now. She says there are a lot of comedic extra side stories that came out of this because of this incident. I've heard different perspectives, including a store owner who watched the entire show from their store window. I had to tell my job interview that day if they could give me a little extra something to prepare since I had kind of had a traumatic event happen that morning. So I wanted to save this part for last because I want to shame someone in my life. Do you know what my brave and fierce protector of a dog did when that man hopped in my truck? He immediately stopped poofing up and decided to give the man a big smooch on his head.
Oh my goodness, Jasper.
Thanks, Jasper. I'm glad you had my back. She says, I've talked to Charlotte and other besties about this story, and they believe that the situation possibly could have escalated if Jasper hadn't been in the truck keeping the guy in check. I would say that that's probably accurate alongside whatever injuries the man had sustained in the crash. She said, thanks for listening to my story, and I can't wait for a TGC Future Live event. It was awesome last time and incredibly cool. Keep it up, Dina and Charlotte.
Aw, thanks, Paige.
Thank you for sending that story in, Paige. I knew she had to tell it because that just doesn't happen every day.
No, it sure doesn't.
And Paige is from a smaller northern Alberta town. And honestly, some of the stories she tells are pretty crazy considering we live in the big city. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much, guys, for sending in your stories today.
Thank you.
They were wonderful. They were exactly what I needed today.
This is great.
Thank you so much.
I love these episodes. Yeah. And you know what? I actually had someone ask me recently if we were going to do another live show.
Oh, I'd be loving to do so.
Right? That'd be fun.
Yeah, I would love to.
Once again, if you have a story that you want to share for the future Grim Encounters episodes, it's thegrimcurriculum@gmail.com. As you can see, we share all sorts of stories about just crazy and wild stuff that's happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to share it, we'd love to read it out on the show. So yeah, by all means, send them in.
Yeah, and we definitely recommend listening to the other Grim Encounters. We've done stories like these. We've shared some from some writers that we know.
Yes.
We've had a lot of fun with this, so definitely check those out as well, because they're a good time.
And like Dina said, there's no limits if it's spooky, crazy, criminal related, UFO related, cryptid related.
I'm still waiting for a Bigfoot story.
Oh, I want it.
I want it so bad.
I really want a cryptid story.
And I want it to be me that sees it.
I would love for you to tell your own story.
Thank you, me too.
Anywho, we are at that point of the episode where, of course, we give a big shout out to the folks over on Patreon, and especially our top tier, the Patreon VIPs.
A huge thank you to Yegpla, Steven Centauri, Paranoid Pop Rocks, Mayhem Mudkip, Lisa, Nova, Kevinus Musicus, Judy, Carrie, Brian, Bob, and Atlantean Jedi.
Oh, the list keeps getting a little longer, and I get prouder and prouder every time. Thank you so much, guys.
And we do have some new members on the Patreon for all the other tiers, so we appreciate all of that.
Don't think we don't see you coming in, because we do. We see you.
And there is a free tier if you want early episode reveals, as well as a 1 week long free trial, so you can watch all the other stuff. So definitely check it out, because we got some good stuff over there.
Yeah, and if not, no worries. Dina shares clips of our episodes across the different social medias as well. So if you want to see our faces, but you don't necessarily want to pay the subscription fee, that's totally fine. You can catch us on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Reels on Instagram and Facebook, all that good stuff. And we appreciate the heck out of you either way.
Thank you all so much for listening. This has been The Grim Curriculum. The rumbling of the stomach is actually called a womble.
A womble. A womble was also these sort of puppet character type guys on the British TV air in the 60s, and they had a hit song called Remember You're a Womble.
Womble.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I went, Remember You're a Womble.
I love that.